Hello everyone, welcome to another DeFi Digs video. Today we're going to talk about solidly forks, aka VE33 dexes, which is one of the many terrible names in crypto, but we're going to do it from the perspective of what I think is the most successful solidly fork so far, and that is Velodrome, which is on Optimism. In fact, I believe that there are more forks from Velodrome now than there are from Solidly, but don't quote me on that. There's also a recently launched Velodrome fork on Base called Aerodrome, which is exactly the same. So anything said in this video can just be directly carried over onto Aerodrome as well. The solidly design can be a little tough to wrap your head around at first, so I'm hoping this video will really help those who are new to the concepts get a better understanding of how they work and make things a little bit more clear. As usual, we'll cover off on the main features of the protocol and briefly cover off on the tokenomics of the project towards the end, with most of the time being spent on the voting and bribe section, as those are the main features that separate Velodrome and other solidly forks from your typical DEX. Before we get started, I have to say nothing in this video is financial advice or an endorsement. This video is for educational purposes only. Crypto is risky. Always do your own research when you are considering investing or using any protocol. Let's dig into it. Okay, so Velodrome, one of the earliest projects on Optimism to my knowledge, came out on June 2nd, 2022, and had a big V2 update on June 22nd of 2023, so about 1 year later. It is kind of the preferred native DEX for Optimism. It has about 3 times the TVL as Uniswap, although I think Uniswap might do more volume. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. As I mentioned in the intro as well, there's a fork on Base called Aerodrome. It is like literally exactly the same, I think, except for some tokenomics differences. So anything function-wise that I describe on Velodrome is also carries over to Aerodrome. So just keep that in mind. Before we do anything, let's do a quick flyover on the concepts and idea behind Solidly and by extension Velodrome for those that are new. So traditionally, a new protocol would incentivize liquidity pools with token emissions. So in this case, just random example, let's say that Quenta wanted to encourage people to provide liquidity for this pool. So traditionally on like SushiSwap or something, they would designate a portion of their Quenta tokens, they might designate a portion of their Quenta tokens to reward liquidity providers, so that those people would receive, maybe some sushi tokens, they would receive the fees, and then they would also receive the Quenta tokens as well. This model has been quite costly for protocols. It's oftentimes led to that liquidity being very fleeting and those reward tokens just kind of getting immediately dumped. So the idea behind Velodrome is that these pools would get incentivized by the DEX's native token, so in this case VELO, but the amount of those emissions would be voted on by VELO holders. So if this pool, for example, got 100% of the votes for that epoch, which is 1 week, then it would get 100% of the VELO emissions for that week, and then a new vote would take place the following week, and this happens every week. The novel idea of Solidly and all of its forks is that these protocols could actually bribe voters for those pools, so they could incentivize the actual voting pools, so that people who voted for this ETH Quenta pool would actually receive a portion of the Quenta tokens that they put in that pool. So instead of the LPs get the rewards, the voters for that pool gets the rewards. So then they get rewarded for voting for the pool, and that pool gets more votes, which in turn gets more of the VELO tokens. Of course, the protocols themselves could also purchase VELO tokens and then lock them and vote for their pair to receive emissions as well. So super interesting. That's kind of the high level overview. And now let's dig a little bit deeper and see kind of what's going on between all of these mechanics. Velodrome has all of the usual DEX features. It's got liquidity pools for both stable pairs as well as volatile pairs. The SAMM indicates that it is a stable pool, and then the VAMM indicates it is a volatile pool. It has all of the usual metrics that you would expect, including the trading fee for that pool, the APR currently, and then volumes and TVL and whatnot. Of course, it also has the swap function, which is something that all dexes must have in order for it to be a dex. But what is kind of unique about Velodrome is that it has this really nifty sort of step-by-step timeline of what's going on. It tells you your slippage, price impact, all that stuff, and then also kind of the steps that you need to do. So I would first, in this case, I haven't swapped OP on this wallet, so I would need to allow OP, and then this next step would open up as the actual swap function. So it really gives you kind of nice insight into everything that's going on. And then we have the dashboard, which is going to be an overview of everything that is happening within your wallet. So if I had any LP positions, they would be displayed here. I do not on this wallet, but I do have a small amount of VELO locked just for the purpose of this video. So that tells me, you know, how much it's locked, for how long, and then also my rewards that I'm getting for voting with that locked VELO. So I voted for the OP Frax ETH pool, and I've received you know, a small amount of rewards here. You can also manage your lock position here as you can from the actual lock screen, which we will dig into right now. So as I mentioned, the only people that can actually vote for the emissions are those who have VELO locked. So you lock VELO for a set amount of time, and in return you receive VEVELO, which stands for Vote Escrow VELO. And that is what actually gives you the voting power. So there are different time frames that you can choose to lock. You get 1-to-1 VELO to VEVELO if you lock for the maximum amount of time, which I believe is 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. So I have 1,600-ish VELO locked. I only locked it for, I don't know, a couple months. So I only got 50 VEVELO of actual voting power. But if I locked all the way up to 4 years, I would receive, you know, effectively 100% of my VELO in the form of VEVELO. So choose whatever length you're comfortable with. Just know that you do get incentivized for locking longer. But in this case, I locked for, I can't remember, let's just say it was 2 months. And in return, I received 49 VEVELO. You also do receive some fees in the form of a rebase, which you get paid out in VELO. So if I go to my dashboard and I look at my position, I'll see that I actually have almost 4 VELO that is completely independent of the actual voting. That's just for locking. So that's how the lock works. You can increase your position. You can also extend these locks. If you locked it for a month and you want to actually do it for a year, then you can change that and it will increase your VEVELO position. You also have some new features here that came with the V2 update, which is merge. If I had 2 different locks, which let's say one was for 3 months and one was for a year, I can merge those. I can also transfer my VEVELO to locked VEVELO to another wallet address, which is cool. And then there's poke and reset. I'm actually not sure what these do. I think poke is just kind of a refresh. Yeah, truthfully, I haven't used those, so I'm actually not sure what they do. There's also this relay that you can deposit your VEVELO into, which is sort of effectively an auto compounder. It will vote for you, claim the rewards for you, and then compound it back into the VEVELO position. So this is kind of cool. There are a number of protocols that were kind of doing this in some way for you, different, you know, auto compounders like Beefy or something like that. So they kind of integrated this natively into the protocol, which is pretty cool. But there's a lot of good information here, so read up on that if you want. Just know that if you do this, I do believe that it locks it for the maximum time. Yeah, it will set the unlock date to maximum, so it'll be 4 years. So keep that in mind. We have the vote section at the top, which we're about to talk about, and then the Incentivize section. This is mainly for protocols or anybody who wants to bribe a voting pool. So like I mentioned on that ETH Quenta example earlier, if Quenta wanted to actually bribe voters with Quenta, they would come here and they would deposit the Quenta into the pool. So you probably won't be doing this unless you for some reason wanted to bribe people for a specific pool. So now the bread and butter of the protocol, we have the lock section. So there's a lot of great information here. It has the current voting round, when that epoch will end. It's always Wednesday, 1 week, like I said. You have total fees, total incentives, rewards, and then the emissions as well. You can also click this help icon, and it will give you a really good breakdown of everything that you can do on the screen. If you sort by pools, it will actually sort by the percent vote. So USDC VELO has the most votes for this epoch at 10.34%, and so on and so forth. Also has the fees that are generated within that pool, the incentives, so these are the bribes effectively, and then the total rewards, which take into account the fees and incentives, and then that makes up the annualized yield, so the APR for that. You can hover over the eye and it will tell you how those fees kind of break down between the rebase APR and then the fees and incentives APR as well. The incentives are also detailed out, so what the incentives actually are. You might not care about Gnode and you might want OP tokens instead, so you'd have to kind of consider that. And then you can vote for multiple pools, choose which 2 pools you want to vote for. So let's say I've selected these 2. This again is the one that I have been voting for, but if you wanted to do 2, then you can just split your votes 50-50 or whatever ratio you want. If you don't vote, or if you vote and then just kind of leave it, then all of your previous votes are going to carry over kind of week by week, so you don't have to come in here every single week and re-vote if it's the same pool that you want to vote for. But the APR is going to, of course, change based on how many votes a pool has. So it's, I would say, probably would behoove you, if you are trying to maximize your actual yield, to come in here towards the end of the epoch and get a better idea of what your rewards are actually going to be. If you came in here on like a Thursday or Friday, right when the epoch began, then there's not going to be very many votes. So the APRs are going to be a lot higher just because there's not that many votes to split between. Whereas over the course of the weekend or closer towards the end of the epoch, you know, more votes are going to be cast, so there's going to be more people that are going to be split those rewards. So that is an overview of Velodrome and kind of the solidly VE33 design. I think Velodrome has really nailed it compared to a lot of the other ones. They just have a ton of information here as far as what's going on. The UX is super slick. So really like this protocol, really like Aerodrome. You know, just to recap, swap function, anybody can provide liquidity, receive a portion of the VELO emissions that are directed from the voters who lock their VELO in order to, you know, vote on the VELO emissions and then receive any bribes or incentives that those protocols deposit into those voting pools. So you can participate in just the voting. If you are maybe bullish VELO and you want to get some yield on VELO, you can participate in just the voting. You can participate in just becoming a liquidity provider. You can sort of do both and provide liquidity into a pool that you also vote to direct some of the VELO emissions to, or you can just do nothing and just, you know, swap your tokens. That wraps us up for Velodrome and by extension Aerodrome. Let me know if I missed anything, and if you found this video helpful at all, please consider giving me a like or a sub. I'll be doing a lot more breakdown and tutorial DeFi videos in the coming months. Thanks for watching.